I love the fragrance of peonies. Welcome back to Whitt Acres. Today I'm going to take you for a walk through the gardens and give you an update on everything from last garden tour. It is a beautiful day out here. It's 87 degrees, just sunny and perfectly blue skies with a slight breeze. We haven't had any rain for a while and we don't have any on the forecast. So I'm trying to enjoy the nice weather, but there's a lot of work to be done whenever we don't get any water. We have some birds out here on grass just to show you real quick. This is the replacement flock that we got, and they are finally out in their bird box enjoying the weather. And then we have Squat, our injured chicken, or our handicapped chicken, getting his own little pen here so he can enjoy the weather outside as well. Our main feature right now blooming is the peony. So we have a lot of white peonies going around. This one has a little yellowness to it as it's opening up and a reddish center once it fully opens. And I just love the fragrance of peonies. So I'm trying to get these all around the property, just like I do with the perennials. This one is no different. I'm trying to get it spread all around so it's in every garden. I do think that's the only one here in the island garden though. But we're still getting some beautiful color from the rhododendron. This one's lasting a little bit longer than the other ones because it's not getting as much sun or the heat of the sun during the hottest point of the day. So it's holding on to its blooms a little bit longer than some of the others. The periwinkle vine is just taking over this area around the bird bath. It looks really good right now, but I am going to have to get in here and maintain it and shape it up a little bit. We have some irises still blooming and some columbine holding on to its flowers. I still love this one the most. This is the darkest iris I have and has a lot of light purple in it, but I really like purple and black. So this is probably my favorite iris that we have. The yellow flag irises come into bloom a little bit after all the decorative bearded irises. So we get a little extended color over here on the island garden. And I think the next thing to bloom out here is going to be this blue sea erigium. This is a pollinator magnet. We even have some pollinators on there already. But once this opens up, it'll have a little blue spurs on it. I'm hoping this isn't just a weed that I've been letting go, and I'm hoping it's the actual plant that I have here that's just spreading. So hopefully this is going to open up and be a nice pollinator magnet, and then I'll be able to pop some of these volunteers out and either sell them or spread them around the property. I finally got the yellow irises that were stuck up in the barn pen. I got those dug up and replanted around the property, and one of them did end up going right here, because sitting on the patio looking out this way, it looks like there's a little bit of a color gap in the island peninsula here. So hopefully next year that'll be filled in with this new planting that I just plugged in. It's small right now, but it is the same as these yellow irises and they grow really fast. So hopefully that will just fill in that little color gap that we have looking from the patio there. I did a lot of tree pruning, so we still have to get this all burnt, but it's been so dry and windy that we haven't wanted to actually burn yet. We're waiting for a nice calm night that we can burn without actually getting too many sparks blown around. So there are some weeds I want to get out before these lilies start blooming so we can actually see them, but they're putting on their buds really nice right now. I'm pretty sure we have about 3 different colors of lilies in here, so we're going to see what all came back after the winter. Look at this big pokeweed. Big old pokeweed sitting in here blocking my irises. But we do still have a good bit of color out here on the island, so I'm really happy with how it's turning out. I do want to get in here and compost the island garden and then get it mulched. I would want to add some nutrition to this area before we mulch it. Look at this yucca. That looks like it's taking. That looks like it's been planted well and it's actually liking its area and putting on some new growth. We have this Virginia creeper climbing up this maple tree, looking beautiful, natural, and it's not going to stay. I think it looks kind of nice climbing up here, but I don't want anything climbing up the trunk of this maple, and I don't want it hurting the bark of it because it's already a peely bark, as you can see. So I don't want this coming in here and making a bunch of problems for this maple tree. It's a really nice specimen tree here that I don't want it damaged. So I don't want any vines climbing up this one. Almost stepped on it, but we're getting a couple little cute blooms out of this ice plant. This one has yet to bloom, but it looks like it's putting on some new growth this year. Puppy dog, you find some shade. Yeah, it's a warm day, buddy. At the front of the vegetable garden here, we have some delphinium blooming, and this is one of my favorite colored flowers here. Look at this color. It's just gorgeous. It's almost a true blue, but it has a lot of purple in it. I think it looks beautiful down here though. I'm glad that came back after winter. I'm hoping it establishes there nicely. And we have a white one coming in right beside it. So it's really nice to see. I like the combination of purple and white. I need to come down here and do a little bit of tending to my garden gate. It's feeling a little bit loose, so I'm gonna have to come in, add some screws, maybe even some glue, and tighten it up a little bit so I don't lose it. I might even come in here with a can of clear spray and maybe polyurethane it just so I can get a little bit more life out of this. So I really like the garden gate I made, but it needs a little bit of TLC to last. So we do have some changes here in the vegetable garden. I got some compost, so I was able to do some planting. This pollinator ring is getting filled out here. I might have to shrink up that butterfly bush so it doesn't take over everything else in the pollinator ring. My onions have started to establish here in the first bed. We have a lot of the Swiss chard and the kale that's going to flower and seed for the pollinators, and the rabbits have been enjoying it as well. That's probably why some of my onions didn't come up. But we do have a good bit of onions in there, and they're all alive, starting to grow up. I do have to come in and do a little bit of weeding so they can stay ahead of the weeds, but I'm happy to see a lot of the ones that I started from seeds still alive. And look how good these starts have doing. This is the first time I bought started onions, and I planted them in here just so I wasn't feeling too far behind, and I'm not anymore. Look how beautiful these are doing. Even though it's been scorching hot, the brassicas have really taken hold and they've been doing a lot of growth. So I have been doing a little bit of watering down here now that I have some things planted, but the brassicas are looking good. I'm not even sure which ones these are, but I'm hoping I get some cabbage out of them. Most of the brassicas I started from seed didn't actually do very well. I didn't have very good germination at all. So I just have a few that I plugged in a little bit late, and I'm just letting them do what they do. I got my tomato bed all topped off and planted. These were the first 4 that I planted. They were bigger than all the other ones to start, but I did crack an egg under these 4 just to see if it would help. Plus I had some eggs that were old and broken that needed to be used in some fashion. I did Celebrity, Oxheart, and Roma. Maybe not in that order, but I think I said it in the video, so I'm gonna have to refer back to that video and get the right order. But I don't think it really matters. I just wanted some good tomatoes, and hopefully this bed is gonna provide enough for me and my family this year. I don't eat a lot of tomatoes, but my mom likes them, so hopefully I'll have some fresh tomatoes for her BLTs this season. I also got the new raised bed here filled up with compost and then planted out with peppers. The first bigger 4 here was a starter pack that my aunt got my brother, and he didn't have any space for them, so he gave them to me. So those are 4 sweet banana peppers, and then 6 of the peppers that I started. I believe they're all bell peppers. I have them planted pretty close because peppers like to hold hands, as they say, so the leaves like to overlap. It gives them support and it helps shade the fruit underneath. So I'm hoping that they do well, and I'm going to get some other intercroppings into here. I like to plant diversely, not only with the vegetables, but to also add some flowers in there for the pollinators and bug control. So there'll definitely be some marigolds going through the garden, all the beds in all different places. The last thing we got planted here is the potatoes, and I didn't go all the way down the row. I was able to make 3 furrows here and get all my potatoes planted. So each row is a different variety of potatoes. I'm trying to keep this watered every other day just because we're having really hot days right now. We've been in the upper 80s all week, and it's supposed to continue this way with no forecasted rain. So I'm trying to keep up with all the watering so I can get all the growth from this nice heat and the hot weather. And of course we do have a peony down here in the vegetable garden. This one is a white one. Nice fragrance on it. It is finishing up here. It's kind of getting taken over by this ground cover weed that we talked about last time. It's doing really well, whatever it is, and it's putting on a lot of nice blooms. The blooms are nice, and the pollinators are all over them. They almost look like a yarrow or a carrot bloom, but they're not that. They're a different kind of ground cover. But the pollinators are liking them right now, so once the bloom cycle kind of ends, I'll come in and rip all those out, try and clean this area up. I need to get in there and get this thistle out of here so I can expose my new trunk here for the empress tree. It's trying to put on some growth here, but it is a couple different shoots, and I want to single it down to 1 shoot and clean out all the competition. I also have to cut down the main trunk to give it room to grow. One other important thing I wanted to get into the ground with the compost that I had were my giant pumpkins. They need a lot of time to grow to get big, so I wanted to get them in the ground as soon as possible, and I was already pretty behind schedule. I have 2 giant pumpkins. The first one I have here is in a mound of compost. I just put a big mound here. I actually put cardboard down first and then put a big mound of compost on top and then planted it right in. I actually have cucumber beetles all over this right now. Hey, Get out of there. So it's actually eating up a little bit. I'm gonna come in here and spray this with some BT. I try not to use a lot of chemicals in the vegetable garden especially, but I am going to be using some BT. It's an organic pesticide for anything that eats the leaf of the plant, so it won't bother any pollinators that come. But there's no flowers on this anyway, but I'm going to be spraying this with BT to try and keep these cucumber beetles at bay and the squash bugs. I've already started to see some squash bugs in here, which kind of worries me, which it's June 1st right now, so it's right on time for them, and it kind of worries me because I don't have a lot of other things in here for them to eat. They're kind of focused straight on my giant pumpkin. I did rip off some fennel branches and lay them around to try and add some different scents here, but it's really not working. They found it and they know it's here. The main pumpkin I have, this was the one that was looking better. I put on the bigger pile and I put it right here in the pumpkin patch. The bugs have also found this one. We got some cucumber beetles in there. Get out of there, guys. Come on. This is my big pumpkin, but it's laying down nicely. I have the cage around it to keep the rabbits away from it, and I have a little bit of fennel there too. I came in last night and fully saturated each of the pumpkin mounds, trying to give them an area that they can reach their roots out into. They grow fast and they soak up a lot of water, and I'm trying to get a really good pumpkin this year, so I have to try and stay on it. I did come through and try and weed whack a lot of the weeds down here on the squash mound so I can get some pumpkins in. It is June 1st, and that is the time to plant your squash and pumpkins, especially if you're growing some jack-o'-lanterns. There's a lot I'm trying to get done, and I don't have all the compost I need right now. I'm going to try and get some tomorrow, and then hopefully I can get a lot more planting done. Outside the vegetable garden entrance, we have a little dianthus blooming. I tried to plug in a few flowers down here just to add some color during the different seasons. It's the dianthus turn right now. We already had the daffodil right here bloom, and then the hosta's coming up next. Just stepped on a thorn and went right through my crock. The rhododendrons here around the side garden, you can see, have already fizzled out almost completely. We have some blooms down at the bottom there that haven't got as much sun as the rest of it. But they get full morning sun and they're already finished up. The side garden here is looking pretty good with all the peonies blooming. I have all white ones in here because I separated one out and tried to spread them. I like white, what can I say? I have some different white peonies though. They're not all the same. Oh, rabbit just went. He's back. Puppy, did you find that rabbit? Puppy knows his boundaries. He knows not to run away. We don't really have a fence here at all. We would like to put a fence back up. We had one before the maple tree went down, but we just haven't got around to that project yet either. Oi, bud. Is that rabbit living in my peony? Hey, back up. You do more damage than the rabbit does. So, hey, peony's taking a beating right now. We have one that's over here that's a little different. Nope, same one. But I think the colors are working well here in the side garden. We have a lot of green and we have different textures of the green. Now we have the white peonies coming up and I can actually smell them from here. The wind's blowing this way and I can smell them. But we have the red barberry putting off a lot of bright color. But now we have the blue Atlas cedar here adding another shade of color to the mix, as well as the yellow arborvitae in the distance. So whenever you get the full view across the side garden, I think it's turning out pretty nice. We got a lot of shades of color, a lot of textures, and it's getting some shape. Here next to the corkscrew willow that I need to prune down, we have this salvia blooming. So beautiful purple blooms on the salvia. Doing really good. These were a clearance plant I got from Lowe's. They were practically dead whenever I got them, but I plugged them in here just to give them a try, and I am happy with the result. This front garden may end up changing a lot. I'm going to be blocking off a lot of the new developments that are going in, so I don't want to be seeing anybody's house windows. So this whole line here is going to need to be filled up with some evergreens and big shade trees. I did get the wood chips spread a little bit further. I got them all the way down to the Cleveland pear, came all the way through the hydrangea line here to the redbud, and finished off the corner around the bird bath. My blueberries viburnums blooming beautifully. I think I need to get the male pollinator for this to actually get the blueberries on it. I have an arrowwood viburnum in the pergola garden, but I don't think it actually pollinates this one. So I might have to look into it and get the correct pollinator so I can get those bright blueberries. One addition I made out here is a plant I got from my friend. He cut it off of his plant that was shooting up an extra shoot. And this is an oak leaf hydrangea. I wanted one because I don't have one yet, so I'm trying to get as many different plants as I can here. And this oak leaf hydrangea was just a little sprout that he was able to cut with one root on it. I plugged it in here and I'm hoping it's going to do well. I've been watering it every time I fill up the bird baths, and these sprouts still look good even though we're getting a lot of heat. I pulled out some sunflowers from my cut flower bed and just popped them into the garden over here. I don't know how well they're going to do, but I wanted some sunflowers out here and I didn't have any started from seed, so I just pulled out some volunteers. Got one here next to the farm stand, and the farm stand's loaded up looking good out here. We got some tomato plants, some bird houses, carpenter bee traps, as well as some eggs, chicken and goose eggs. We also have some blackberry plants down here on the bottom and some creeping phlox here that's starting to bloom. The mailbox trellis is looking good, and the clematis is just starting to put on some buds. So this is gonna have another beautiful show this year. Coming around the front here, we have a lot more peonies, and we actually have a new color. The pink one is blooming right now. So we have a little beautiful cup pink one. This one's spreading open even more. Beautiful peonies. But on the inside here we have another white one, and this one's actually different from the other one. You can see the different cluster of flower it has. It's not as uniform, it's kind of more spread out, and it has a different red spot in it. I think this one too. Yeah, look at that. Just kind of has a little speckle there going around the outside of the main center. Gorgeous. There's a few peonies here in the front, and I may end up rearranging this whole area and relocating them, or trying to work around them so they can keep growing. Peonies can get really old, so they don't have to be separated and transplanted like a lot of other perennials, so you can leave them in the ground and they can get over 100 years old, but I also want to spread them around. Right next to this yucca we have a knockout rose putting on some blooms, but look at that bud. That is a real thick bud on this yucca, and we're going to get another bloom from this one, but also this grouping over here. So we pulled out at least a dozen volunteers, but we're still going to get some blooms off of this yucca. When you plant yuccas in groups, you usually get blooms every year. They're a biennial bloomer by themselves every other year, but I like to put them in groups, and then we can get a show every year from them. Down here is an oh so easy pink. Yeah, oh so easy double pink rose that I put in last year, and it's actually doing really well. We're getting some light green coming on the burning bush around the hemlock ring as well. I'm trying to keep the other weeds down so they can just take over. And the hosta bed over here has been filling in so full. I think I might even have to come in here and water them. They're just putting on a lot of green growth, and we're not getting any rain. You can see how they're getting kind of burned up. And if I let them go too long, the foliage will get burned up and crisp, and they won't ever recover, and they'll be like that all year. So I'm probably going to come in here and give some water to this bed and some of these hostas down here as well. We do have a couple bloom shoots coming on the Empress Woo, which is just massive. And we ended up having the gas man just show up and fill up the tank, but he was nice enough to drag it into the yard and then back up to the tank, so he didn't drag it into the hosta garden, which I was surprised that happened. But I was really thankful that he didn't hurt the hostas, because I still need to get in there and pull them out so I can make some more room for them. But they're in the ground right now and they're doing really well, so I'm trying to get more stuff done that is in containers before I start digging up things that are in the ground. Now the first peony to bloom was actually up here in the pergola garden. This is a large white peony that I dug up from a friend's house, not last year, but the year before. And I dug it up in mid-bloom. I transplanted it here, put it right into the ground, and it's been doing really good. My brother's dog actually dug it up one winter, and I don't know how long it was out of the ground, but once I found it, I recovered it, and it came back nicely the next year, and this year it's coming back really nice as well. So normally you wouldn't dig up and transplant something in mid-bloom, but since they were at a friend's house that didn't want them and they'd probably get destroyed otherwise, I decided I'd bring them home and try and give them a chance, and I'm glad they did. They've been doing really well. Since the last garden tour, I also added the addition here for the silver lace vine. I put a new post in, stained it up, put a crossbar across so I could support the vine, and added a 45 for support. It is sunk in the ground about 2 feet, so I'm really liking the look of it, even though it's naked right now, but I think it's going to offer a lot of support for the silver lace vine whenever it fills out. I didn't get to the expansion for the red trumpet vine yet. It's already filling out, so I'm not sure if I will get there, but I do want to add that at some point. It just might not be this year. We have some gladiolas coming back right here next to my massive pokeweed that obviously thinks it should be planted here. But we have some gladiolas that are coming back. That is the yucca that we transplanted, doing well, actually showing some signs of new growth. And then along this line of the pathway, we have calla lilies popping up. They're coming up beautifully, and they're gonna look really nice this year because they had decent blooms last year, but I think they're gonna do even better this year. Right behind them, we have this hydrangea putting on a lot of buds. So this one's probably one of the earliest ones. I don't know if this is the quick fire, but I'm thinking this might be the quick fire. So I do try and keep these tours shorter, but I start walking around the gardens and want to show you everything. So let me know down below if it's a little bit too long or you enjoy the tours. Over here in the food forest, we are getting some berry growth. These are the blackberries and the raspberries and the black raspberries, and they are putting on a ton of berries. They're just really full, and I'm hoping I get to some of these before the birds do. This one actually looks pretty bad. Don't know what's going on with you. Something dug into it, or what's going on there. This one's doing really well. It's actually spreading a little bit more than I want it to, but we have a lot more green growth on it than we do pollination. But that little bee there is working on it, aren't you, guy? This is my jostaberry, and I'm concerned it's not getting enough sunlight. I did come through and prune up this maple tree to let a lot more light in, but you can see how it's just reaching out. We have the canopy of the maple right there, and you can see how it's really leaning towards the light, like it's not getting enough for its satisfaction. So this might have to get moved and into a more lighted spot. Fortunately, we are getting a strawberry. It's just not in the strawberry bed. It's down here on the ground. Right there is going to be the first ripe strawberry, and it's one of the volunteers that popped out of the bed. We do have some forming in here though. A lot of strawberries coming on here, getting just enough sunlight to form. But this one's going to be the first one. This is my honeyberry, or indigo haskap berry, and this is one of my favorite berries to eat. It's a little bit more sour and tart than a blueberry, which is a few of them right there. They're not doing too well. This one's doing pretty well. I'd like to get a few more of these so I can have a better pollination and maybe get more berries, because I'm pretty sure this one got zapped by a late frost and didn't produce anything. So I would like to get a better chance of berries for this one because it is my favorite. But just looking in here now, I found a little baby nest. Look at that thing. Nothing in it right now, but it is providing habitat out here for the wildlife. Looking down here on the currants, and we are having some currants form. Look at those berries. That is beautiful. That might be the first berry I get out of this food forest this season, is the currants. So we'll see if these ripen or the raspberries ripen first. I'm betting the currants. Behind the chickens out here, we can see that the lilies are putting on their buds. So we're gonna get another beautiful show of orange lilies going down the driveway line. And as the lilies finish up, the hostas are right in between them, and they'll start blooming next. On this side of the driveway, we have the blue fescue, and I do have to come in here and give her a haircut. She's going to seed right now and getting pretty fluffy, and it's kind of hiding all the dianthus. And they're kind of hiding all the dianthus that's trying to bloom underneath them. Not all the dianthus came back. It did get taken over by the weeds, like this one especially. You can see we have one bloom coming on this guy. And that is because this creeping Charlie really just got on top of it and really just shaded out the whole plant. It's still alive under there, it's just not doing what it could be doing. And the blue fescue really isn't helping either. So I'm the only one that does the landscaping around here, so I will get to that whenever I find some time. But my mom also put on me this area here that she wants it to change. So my mom did mention she wants this area to change. She doesn't want the seating in there. We don't use that seating anyway. It's a flimsy metal chair that doesn't actually hold your weight. It'll actually crush if you try and sit on it. So they're really just there for decoration. And they look good for a while, but they get bird poop on them and no one really uses them. So we're gonna switch this up this year and try and do something different with it. I'm not 100% sure what I want to do with that area yet. Maybe some type of rock garden, but we'll get to that. That's going to be another project in the future. We have the 9-bark here coming out of bloom right now, coming from a white flower into a pinkish red and darkening up. So it's looking really nice as it changes. We have the poppies coming into full bloom down here as well. This is the poppy bed, but we just have a few volunteers that came back. These are gorgeous and they're really eye-catching from all around. I was able to find a dark elephant ear. It's not the black magic that I had in here before, but this is a coffee cups, I believe. elephant ear, and it's going to be right there reaching out. It should get about 3 to 5 feet, and with the 9 bark reaching over the top of it, I'm hoping that it kind of leans into the pathway a little bit and just adds a nice tropical feel as you come down here into the pond area. The cold frame is just popping off full. I need to get in there and just harvest some of that for the ducks and the chickens. We have the lupin still blooming. This lupin is just gorgeous, and it's still putting out some new buds for the pollinators, and it still has some more to open as well. Look at that little one, still coming up. That one still has more to open as well, and there's just so many on there already. We got a little bachelor button here putting on a lot of blooms. Nice color too. This is actually a volunteer. It reseeded, and it is a very welcome volunteer here. We have some Chinese forget-me-not that is not as welcome, but it's really hard to get rid of it, and once it comes up and starts blooming, I kind of let it go because pollinators love it, and then I kind of forget about it and it reseeds. I haven't been able to do any planting down here at the pond yet, but we do have some perennials coming back. The purple oxalis is down here, and it's just starting to bloom. Then we have the creeping jenny starting to spread over the rocks and cover the lining edge. Puppy, what are you doing up there? We have more of the creeping jenny on this side, but the gladiola is coming up strong this year. I'm hoping for a lot of nice blooms on that, and I'm hoping I can get it staked up enough to actually last this year instead of blowing over. A new addition over here is the palm tree that I plugged in behind the hosta. I did put it straight into the ground. It won't survive our winters here, but I wanted to put it into the ground so it had a nice solid base. And as it got bigger, it wouldn't have any chance of blowing over in the wind. I'm just gonna have to dig it up in the fall and pot it, store it in the garage of the house so it can actually withstand our winter and hopefully be alive for next year. Bring it out and it'll be even bigger. The pond has algae in it, but it is nice and clear. I've been adding some feeder fish in here for the bass that's still living. And they're doing really good. I'm trying to find the bass right now, but I just don't see her. She's usually outside. Something moved here, a little dust cloud, probably a frog. I was out here doing some modifications on the waterfalls because I had a leak, and I was watching this baby bird jump across the water and stand on a rock. It was a baby starling, and I was just watching it to see if it would actually go in and bathe or something. And as I was working on the rocks, I heard a splash. I saw her flapping in the water, and I went down to investigate, see if I could save her. And as soon as I went down there, I saw the frog attached to it. This big frog pulled the baby bird down to the bottom of the pond and held her there. I was planning on saving this baby bird, and then I saw the frog taking it, and I was like, I guess I'll let nature take its course. And the frog ended up holding it down there and then lost it. It floated up to the top and left it go. I didn't want to leave the baby bird just dead in the water, so I did have to scoop her out and put in the compost. But it was just crazy to see that frog attack a bird. I didn't really think about that too much, where frogs would eat birds, but if it's small enough to fit in its mouth, they'll probably eat it. These irises in the ramp bed have been doing so well. They just had so many blooms this year, and they've just been holding on to them great. They probably still have 25 blooms on here, but they've just been full for a really long time, and they were one of the first to bloom too. So really happy with these. I have a lot of trays out here that I started that are still struggling in the heat, and I really need to get planted. I really need to get more compost to do my planting, so I'm hoping I can order that tomorrow and get it delivered same day. So hopefully I can get some more planting done before next week's garden tour. That's going to be all for this one. Hope you enjoyed this week's garden tour, and I hope you want to come back for next week and see all the progress that gets made. You can see me and Echo on the next one. Thanks for watching.